right, so this morning I woke up to a slew of different comments over all the videos that I created yesterday. And as you guys can see, if I didn't have a crummy job getting in the way of my making videos, I could make 10 videos a day easily, including half of them being shorts. But unfortunately, I need money, so I have to go to work. But while I was looking through the comments, Sir Thanks a Lot has been the catalyst for many videos over the years that I have produced for this channel. And everything he says up here in this comment, I'm not going to read it out loud, you guys can read it if you want, is absolutely true. When you go to a job interview, you're not really applying to a job. You're applying to whether or not you're going to fit in there. Because almost everyone who applies to a job has the same crap on their resume, right? You've all worked the same crappy jobs. There aren't that many evil corps to choose from in the world. Evil corp is everywhere. Everywhere you look, there's some rich guy who's found a way to monopolize making money over everyone else, because that's really what it comes down to, is that these people find a niche, whether it's internet, it's social media, it's a news station, it's a grocery store, it's a school, whatever it is. They find some niche where they do something better than the next guy. And then they just continue doing it until they go out of business. And then as a rich guy, you just go start something else. Landscaping, pool cleaning, a car dealership, whatever. And everywhere they go, they bring their brand of greed into the equation, paying people nothing, treating people like crap, expecting loyalty with it where there is none in return. There's not a single day that I've ever gone to work where I didn't think that my lady manager was going to fire me that day. It's just that way when we deal with it every single place that we go. Managers are managers. They're designed to be a-holes to everyone because that's what they do. Because they have the responsibility of not looking like they're incompetent in front of their own bosses, right? So they've got to make certain that they make everyone underneath them look as just as incompetent. And so you walk through your life seeing this everywhere you go, whether it's fast food, it's a warehouse, or it's a grocery store. These people have to function like this, and they get it inside their head that the only way that they're going to survive, they're going to keep their own jobs, is by making certain that they keep the people beneath them. How do I do it? How do I put this? It's the same way that a sadistic prison guard comes by and rattles the cages at night, letting you know that you have no power. You're just there. You're trapped. You're stuck. It's pound town every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And there's nothing you can do about it because most of us are never going to go into management, ever, because we're not designed that way. Everyone has the aptitude to do whatever they're going to do up to a certain level. In fact, I was just reading a little while ago that the CEO of OpenAI just said that AI has gotten so intelligent it can do the work of PhD level human beings. Well, what does that say about every person who didn't graduate from high school who still needs a job? You're obsolete. And what does that say about management? I did a video on this about 6 months ago, I think, in which I was talking about how AI could easily replace every executive in the country, and they would do a better job at it. And then you couldn't complain when the AI decided to fire 25% of the workforce because it's just logical. Many people think that CEOs don't take into consideration the human element when they fire 10,000 people with one swoop, with one, how do in one Zoom meeting. Boom, you're all gone. And that leaves those 10,000 people to figure it out. And those people have everything to lose. Every person in America is directly dependent on their evil corp to provide them resources. We don't go to work because we want to. And with that said, let's transition into what ChatGPT wrote today based on this comment. So here's our opening monologue. They say you just need a job to survive. But what they don't tell you is that every job now comes with a belief system. You're not just clocking in, you're signing up to perform loyalty, obedience, and fake optimism. If you don't smile hard enough, agree fast enough, or blend in perfectly, you're disposable. This isn't about work anymore, it's about worship. Nearly every place I've ever worked at has told me that you need to smile more at work. It's part of the uniform. In fact, I was working at Insight a few years ago, and the supervisor walks up to me and he says, "You know, they know when you're frowning on the other side of the phone." No one sits in a call center and smiles unless you have some severe psychological problems and you don't know any better. If you're working in a call center, your face should always be frowning. In fact, the other day when I was talking to one of my work friends, she got so butthurt when I told her that people didn't like work. She literally was looking into the, or not even looking into the eyes. She was observing the new employees through the webcam, and she couldn't understand why they all looked miserable. And I said to her, it's like, you do realize these people don't get paid anything. You do realize that these people aren't going to be here for more than a few weeks. This is a desperation job that has the highest turnover at any evil corp. Salespeople turn over. I still have that acquaintance who got fired last year from her sales job. And boy, she in commission selling people crap. She was making $4,000 a paycheck doing sales. But the second that you do not obey, that the loyalty, that they don't feel like you're a team player, well, guess what? They fired her. Why? Because she wanted to take time off. And I know exactly when they fired her because it was last year around the 4th of July, because every year she flies back to see her family. And this year, her manager said, "No, you're not taking time off." And she said, "But I have PTO." And they said, "It doesn't matter. You're not going to use it. We tell you when you're going to use your off time. They don't want you using your time off during high sales periods, during sales." And she said, "I don't care what you said." And she put in her time off. It wasn't approved. She came back, and a week later, she literally showed up on Monday the following week waiting to get fired. And I remember she called me that Monday, and she's like, "They didn't fire me today." But the next morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, they were escorting her out with security based on a point system. If you've ever worked on a point system, it's there for this sheer purpose of getting rid of you. You're on a point system. Usually it's 4 or 5 points. Tardies count as half a point. Not showing up. No call, no show is like almost all of them. Like if it were 5 points, they would no call, no show is 4.5. It literally is the killer of almost every single point system based job. And to that extent, they expect to get rid of you. And so when she didn't come in, on Monday, I'm certain they were just doing the paperwork, because it was first thing the next day that she called me that she was on her way home because they fired her. And it's just that way. Point systems are designed to get rid of people. When I worked at Walmart, it was the exact same way. Point system for everything. Not smiling, lose a point. Not providing, what do they like to call it? World-class customer service. If you're providing world-class customer service every single day, you're not going to last. It's the very system. It's designed to get rid of people. So when a person who looks at the people that they are training to do something that they don't want to do, because remember, no one wants to work anymore. We've known that for decades. The only reason they coerce us into working is because we need money. Otherwise, no one would show up. I mean, I don't know how many times people, when I worked in retail, just didn't show up, especially if they had no reason to show up. You're not paying for the electric bill, you're not paying the mortgage, you don't have kids in college, you don't have anything. When I was 18, I met this really old guy at work and he said, "These corporations have us by the short hairs. They know what we need and they know that we'll obey to the extent that we can. But there are certain people who show up to work and they don't care about the system. They don't care about whether or not they're going to be liked at work. And they typically don't last long. And because they don't fit into the culture, the corporate culture that tells you to believe in company slogans and believe in the mission. I mean, why do you think corporations have mission statements, or why they expect you to write a cover letter for a job you don't really want? That's really what it comes down to at the end of the day, is we don't really want those jobs. And when a person doesn't even believe that, when a person's convinced themselves that what they're doing at work has any value, that's where they truly win. That's what that person who sent me the pictures of those people that she was training, that's what she believed until that very moment in her life. She realized, oh my God, these people don't want to be here. I mean, I looked at the pictures she sent me. I wish I could put it up on the screen. And every person that she was looking at wasn't paying attention. Like there was a few guys in the pictures she sent me that were actually looking straight up at the ceiling. And I was like, that right there shows you the disconnect between regular people and the jobs that they have to do. Like I remember sitting in training when I was in Insight and they did a group hire, right? They hired like 6 of us in a group hire. And if you guys have ever been in a group hiring session, it's stupid because they're literally hiring because they know that most people aren't going to come back the next day. I mean, this happens to at my job all the time where people will sign up for to take a job and they never show up on day one. They either found something better or they realized that they really weren't interested that much. And it's a tough hiring process. You've got to do background checks, you've got to do education checks, you got to do employer checks, you got to do all kinds of checks. And then you finally get in, and then you decide, you know what? I don't really want this job. I mean, I think it was 2 Mondays ago, they were going to hire like a big marketing executive. And when I called his boss, because his boss is one of my friends at work, like close, I would say close friends. Like we talk about everything, talk on the phone outside of work. We talk about all kinds of stuff, right? And I called her to see how she was doing afterwards. And then she just wrote me back, it sucks. And it sucks because she's got to go through all of the effort again to try to get another person that may show up or not show up at all. And that's that. And you're talking about a job that pays $150,000, $200,000 a year. These aren't low paying jobs. But at the same time, if you're a person who can command that kind of salary, chances are you have better options. And with that said, let's get into talking point number one, because I've literally talked nonstop in this video about nothing that ChatGPT created. Okay, modern employment has shifted from transactional to ideological. You're no longer just hired to do a task. You're expected to adopt the company's culture, values, and mission as your own. Question it is seen as betrayal. Key. Okay, so this they added these little components. I don't know. Sometimes ChatGPT will change its own format. Someone was actually in fact, Sir Thanks a Lot was asking me about the AI artwork that you guys are seeing in the background that hasn't been created yet. So in order to create that artwork, that whatever you guys are seeing right now, it's a simple prompt to ChatGPT. ChatGPT can no longer create images because of its guidelines. If you ask it to generate a thumbnail like the ones that I've used 600 times, it can't do it anymore. It draws an oil painting because its guidelines have changed so dramatically that it can no longer create images. It creates ugly, disgusting images, and even its writing has changed because of its guidelines. ChatGPT is one of those corporations now that has become so politically correct that it had to entirely change the way its software works because of some snowflake out there that got offended by something it said. So they had to instill solid guidelines in order to keep you safe from yourself, which I think is stupid. We've become a society that is afraid of its own shadow. And that's what this channel is about. A lot of this channel is about that. Is a society too afraid of what other people are thinking or how other people will interpret it? Like, and this is exactly what I'm talking about right here. So last night, I had never seen Red Dead Redemption, either game one or game two. Maybe I remember like a scene where they're being chased by wolves or something like that, but I'd never seen the game in full. So last night I was watching this girl gamer who keeps coming up in my recommended feed. And she was playing the last hour of Red Dead Redemption Part 1, which came out in I think 2010. And she started out her video by prefacing it saying, this game couldn't be written the way that it is today. Why? Because our society has become so politically correct that you can't do things that you could do 15 years ago. You can't say things, you can't act certain ways. We live in a society in which if you say the wrong things, especially if you say the wrong things at work and people get offended by what you say, you're not going to last long. And that's the way the workplace is. So she cried so many times while watching the end of this video game. And I thought it was so funny because she was absolutely right. Our society has dramatically changed from where we were to become a much more stringent society on how and what we do. And this involves every aspect of our lives. And you wonder, it's like, how did this happen? Who are the people who are making these decisions? Based on what criteria did we decide that we had to have participation trophies for the people who are never going to come in first place? And this is exactly what's happened to Gen Z in the job market, is that they've come into a very harsh job market, a job market that doesn't want them, doesn't feel like they have any value whatsoever. But the worst part is they still need jobs. No matter what your aptitude in life is, whether you were on the short bus or you went to Harvard, you still need some sort of way of providing a living. We're not allowed to just exist. And that idea of not being allowed just to exist really bothers me. It's one of the cornerstones of why I built this channel, is that we're not allowed to just live. You have to somehow provide in a society that is extremely competitive. Everything in our world is competitive. Every aspect of our life is competitive, whether they're financial resources, whether they're your partner, whether it's the job that you're never going to get, or a job that you're already in that you're never going to get a promotion or a raise. Most of us are stuck where we are. There's no lateral moves. You're not going to get rich from hourly work. You're not going to get rich from doing what you can do. I know that for a fact in my position. There's no way that I'm ever going to make more money. They would rather find someone else and pay them $10,000, $20,000 less and get the labor of someone at that price tag. Because these evil corporations don't realize, or they just truly choose to be delusional about it. If you hire someone for $20 an hour and they show up and they don't know how to do anything, they're lazy, they don't want to do what they're told, they have no training, they have no experience, but they have a college degree, what are you supposed to do with them? You hire them, you use them for however many weeks you can, and then you toss them out. Then you bring in another $20 an hour guy. And what they're hoping for is to find someone who is so who's working so far beneath their means that they can exploit them. That's the person, that's their ideal person. A person that has a lot of skill and is desperate for any sort of job. Because that's the key word in any job interview. It's like, how desperate are you? It's like these jobs where they don't even post what they're going to pay you. In the job description, they just post pay is based on experience or God, it's based on like merit, right? They're going to pay you on a sliding scale. It may be minimum wage or it may be $20 or somewhere in between. Usually it falls somewhere in between unless you're just totally green and they can afford to start you at minimum wage, but tell you that the pay potential goes up to $30 an hour. No one ever makes that much. But any employer will tell you advertising a job right now at minimum wage is going to be a tough nut to find someone to take that job. So they would rather bring you in and tell you that you have all this opportunity at work because that's what they love to tell you. It's obedience disguised as opportunity, right? They want you to come in feeling like there's opportunity, but the reality is that it's not really there. It's like the illusion of freedom, right? The illusion, I mean, I was watching Matt's off-road recovery yesterday, and they were talking about so much about how freedom and the 4th of July, they're selling merch, right? Oh, we just love freedom. It's like, what freedom do you really have? Do you have the freedom to make minimum wage? You have the freedom to not make a living wage? Does that really feel like freedom to you? Because that's not freedom to me. There is no actual freedom. Freedom has been disguised in this country since it was created. You're talking about a country that keeps waving its little flags when you started out a country with straight up slavery on plantations. All the founding fathers had slaves, and yet those same people were waving the flag for freedom. Freedom is for people who have money. The rest of us, we have a version of freedom. Maybe, like Donald Trump yesterday said, that there are too many federal holidays and that it's hurting the economy. That's the kind of people who will talk about freedom all day long, about the freedom to do this or the freedom to do that. And you're like, are you really free? Look at this job economy. Is that freedom to you? To lose your job and then become homeless? That's not a kind of freedom that I think should even be called remotely that. But it's what we have. It's what our society's built on. It's the freedom to be poor. And I think I'm just going to end it there by using my closing monologue because I didn't touch any of my talking points today. You were never just hired to flip burgers or answer phones. You were hired to believe in something that doesn't serve you. But belief without dignity is a prison. So if you've ever felt like you were losing yourself just to keep your job, you're not crazy. You're just waking up. And once you see the system for what it is, you can finally stop worshiping it. I'm telling you guys, sometimes ChatGPT has a real humdinger. But that's really what it comes down to. If you worship the system of freedom, like in that same episode of Matt's Off-Road Recovery, like a couple of fighter jets flew over them while they were recovering a vehicle, and they all started jumping up and down like monkeys. And I was just like, really, that's all it takes, huh? Is an airplane to get the pros excited, or a new Marvel's movie, or a beer commercial. That's all it really takes. I mean, we've been institutionalized to believe that this is real. That waking up every morning and going to Pound Town is something we can't get out of. That's the conditioning working inside of your melon right now. That's also telling you that you're so free.